Hello, I'm Opal Mitchell. I work for the Central Arkansas Library System at the Nixon branch in Jacksonville. I'm the adult programmer there and the assistant manager. And this is my Crafting with Opal program that I've been doing since, I guess, mid-March. Yeah, about then. And this week I'm going to be doing a sewing project. I apologize, I have a puppy dog that's making noises in the background. She's trying to make her bed. Hi, it looks like I have one person here so far. Anyway, this week I'm going to be doing a sewing program, and I'm going to be showing you how to make a sewing machine organizer. It's really cool. I'm going to reverse the camera here in just a moment so you can see what I'm talking about. Hello, looks like I got a couple of people already. I'm going to go ahead and start marking down my people to keep up with who's here. The one that I've made already is an organizer I have under my sewing machine, and I got the idea from many other people online that have made this same project before. The video I watched on how to make the one that I'm showing tonight is it's a little bit easier than the other ones I've seen. Some people get pretty fancy with a lot of the organizers that I've seen before, and so I've been pretty intimidated in making one previously until I saw how to make this particular one, which I thought was super easy. I'm going to show you how to make it the more difficult way. There's two ways. The one that I have that I'm going to show you is pre-quilted fabric that I didn't have to quilt. So that makes it super easy. Now I'm going to show you, and just in case you are unable to get a hold of fabric that's already been quilted, which it is a lot more expensive if you buy it pre-quilted. It's usually about $20 a yard, I think it was. It was kind of expensive. I bought mine with, I think it was at least a 50% off coupon, a Joann's coupon, when I bought mine. And I bought it a while back intending to use it for a different project, but I never got around to making that project and kind of changed my mind about it. It was a little bag type thing I was going to make, but I love this a lot better. So let me show you real quick what we're doing. That's my sewing machine, and right underneath it is the organizer that I'm just going to show you how to make tonight. The one I'm going to make is actually not going to be a sewing machine organizer. I already have one for my sewing machine. So I'm going to show you the one that I'm going to be making is going to be an organizer I'm going to put underneath my laptop. And it's same design. I'm just going to put the pocket on where it hangs off on this side of the table rather in the front like this one does. More convenient for this one to have the pocket. See, you can see this is a pocket. To have your pocket in the front because you can grab the things you want, like these little scissors. I usually just throw them in there. You can make any kind of size pocket you want. Like I have a smaller pocket here for like one of these. Usually I put a marker pen in it, and then I've got some scissors here and here. And this is not connected to it. That's something separate that I just have looped over the side. But this is super simple, especially if you go ahead and have your own quilted fabric that you bought from the store. Let's see here. I'm going to grab some more quilted fabric that I have on hand. I'm not going to be using this, but this is some quilted fabric that was donated to the library, and this is what it looks like. It's usually got one pattern on one side and another pattern on the other, and it's not a really thick quilted type material. It's very thin batting that they have in between it. It looks like someone actually serged this side right here, whoever donated this fabric to us. but that's the way it looks when you purchase pre-quilted fabric, and they usually have a lot of different designs. The one I bought, you can kind of see it's a little bit different design on the underside. It's like solid purple on top, but it's got all kinds of different, it's more patterned on the other side with stripes. And you can, flip it either direction. I just wanted the solid purple on top, and I liked that as a pocket area, so that's why I decided to do mine this way. You can do yours however you want to, and you really only have to, if you're going to not quilt your own fabric, all you have to do is have a ½ yard of something like this, just depending on how large your sewing machine is. Some people have bigger ones, so when you're starting out, you're going to have to do some measuring to figure out how wide. So you'll need to get, like, I like these large quilting things that you can measure with, and you would just measure your area, how wide across you want it, to figure out how wide you want it, because you really are just going to cut it down to what size you want. The only thing that you'll have to really pay attention to is when you're measuring back there up to here, because you're going to have to double this area because you're folding it forward to make your pocket. So when you're measuring this area, you'll have to measure here and then add whatever, how much, let's see, I can do it real quick here. This is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 6 inches long, so I would add another 6 inches, so 1, 2, 5, 6, so that's another 6. So literally I could take one of these, which this measures to 24 inches. So if on this one I would make it 24 inches by however long across this is, which is, I believe, about 22. So when I go to cut my fabric, we would just have to, let me switch back over here so I can show you. A great thing to have, which makes cutting fabric so much easier, is one of these mats. This is the fabric I'm working with that I'm going to be making my little laptop cover. So if you are working with the pre-quilted fabric, we'll come to this one in a moment so I can show you how to quilt it, is you would take this pre-quilted fabric and you would literally just lay it out flat, depending on, what direction you wanted it to be and so forth. And you would just lay one of these on top of here. So I was going to make it that long, even with my folded pocket. That's how long I would want it to be. So you're going to literally have it that long, and then you're going to cut off your edges here. So what I would do is to straighten out my edges. This has got lines on it, so I would just kind of line it up with the lines on the fabric to try to make sure it's kind of lined up correctly. And I would just cut across with my rotary cutter. I would cut across here to get my first piece, and then I would turn this and line it up with that edge, and then I would cut however long I think I said it was 22. Then I would cut down this way and get your piece cut out, going all the way around. You would go to this side and do your 22. Then you would only have to cut the other side. That is really, really easy to do, and that's how I did mine. I didn't have to do a whole lot of other, besides putting the bias tape on. So let me get this out of the way. And I can show you. Everybody's left. Okay, well I'll keep going anyway. This is what I'm gonna do with mine. I measured mine out for my laptop. Like I said, this is, if you have to quilt your own, you will measure out your area. Like with my laptop, I measured mine it's going to be wider, a lot wider, because my pocket's going to hang off to the side instead of to the front. And what I did was I got my measurements first. This is my pattern side, and then I'm going to have just a solid color on the other side, because I really didn't like any other patterns that I had that would really coordinate with this. That was what I liked the best for my other side. So I cut out my pattern piece first, pretty close to the size that I wanted it to be. The only thing I didn't quite measure, I'm going to show you how to cut this. This is the only side I didn't cut yet. I'll show you how to cut that with a rotary cutter. It's really, really super easy. I did half of the quilting part, so you wouldn't have to watch me do the entire quilting process, because it can take a little while to do that. I'm going to move, and I'll show you. These are just my little notes I made. I measured across in front of my laptop, and it was 32 inches. I want this side to hang off of my table 4 inches on one side, and then I want my pocket to be 4 inches deep, so I measured 4 inches plus 4 inches, because you know you're going to have your fabric fold over. And then I measured how far back I wanted my piece to go, and I only needed to go about 12 inches. And then I'm going to have, like on this side, it's going to be big enough where my laptop's sitting over here, and I'll have a place over here that's open where I can have my mouse. So that's kind of how I figured out mine, on, you know, how to cut mine. And that's that. And when you're quilting with something like this, what I would do is pretty well get your top piece the size that you want. And then that's what I did with this one. I cut it the size that I wanted. And then on my other two pieces, which is my solid and my batting, I just used some cotton batting that I had on hand. I took those two and made them a little bit past my fabric here on every edge. Actually, this piece measures all the way across a whole, like if you buy fabric, this is how wide the fabric is, because I'm right on the what you call shelvage. This is the shelvage over here, and the shelvage is on the other end too. It's exactly that long. The reason I had to cut mine this way is because of the design. I wanted the design to be this direction. I didn't want it turned going the other way. I wanted it to be right side up looking at me whenever, because I want to be able to see this when my laptop's sitting on it. So that's the way I did it that way. And when I get done with quilting it, when I fold it over by 4 inches on this side, this piece is what's going to be hanging off the side of my like a laptop area of the little desk I have it on. And I'm gonna have some black bias tape that's gonna be on the edges of it. But so that's what I've got so far. And I'm gonna show you, once you get your measurements figured out, you will you're going to mark your fabric by, I decided with quilting, you can make your squares that you draw on here up and down and diagonal, but I like them more at an angle like this. So that's where I'm going to be sewing my lines on it to quilt it. I've already pre-done half of it, where I've did lines on part of it and pinned part of it. So once you figure out your sizing and everything and you've cut it down, I'm going to show you how. I only have this one edge to still cut, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it so I can show you. I love using a rotary cutter. It makes things so nice. And since my other edges are nice and lined up, I'm going to show you. I'm lining up my fabric with the lines on this, and so I'm just going to line this up, pull this a little bit forward, because I want to get it as straight as possible. And I've already pre-quilted a little bit of this. Like I said, I didn't want to do it all during this program because it would take a long time to do it. And so I'm going to move around here because I need my hands over here. And I'm just going to take the rotary cutter and cut it all the way down. And sometimes I don't get all my little pieces. There we go. So now I have all straight edges. You can do this after you've done your actual quilting part where you've actually sewn everything in place. Or you could do it after you've pinned everything, because the next step you're going to do is you're going to draw all your lines on here, and then I'm going to pin it. As you can see right here, I've drawn, it's really hard to see, but I've drawn lines going this direction, and they're 2 inches apart. And I'm going to use my little bit easier to see. This has got bigger numbers on it and easier to see. But you're going to use it to measure 2 inches, which I might not be able to because this one is not long enough. Okay. Not quite long enough for what I want to do. But I've already drawn my other diagonal lines this direction on this side. I haven't done it on here. So I'm going to continue to draw my 2-inch marks this direction, and then I'll finish doing my other directional ones. I wish you could see this a little bit better. You can see the lines I've already sewn, but I don't think you could see the lines that I've drawn. But those are the lines that I've drawn, and those are 2 inches apart in both directions. And the part that's been sewn, you probably can't see the lines but I actually sewed right on top of those lines. And when you're sewing, also I'll show you, you have to start in a certain part when you're doing your quilting. You have to start in the middle when you're quilting to do the sewing part, to keep everything from laying nice and flat. Even though you got everything pinned, it can still shift on you, so they always want you to start in the middle. But I'll show you that part here in a minute. So, alright, my puppy dog is in the middle of the floor making it difficult for me to move around, so I'm going to have to shift her out of the way. Okay, so this is the last line I drew coming this way. And my pins are going to make it really difficult to measure. So I want 2 inches. So I'm lining up, making it hard to see even. The 2-inch mark here, I'm putting it on top of the line that I've already drawn in that direction, and keeping it all lined up nice and neat. And then I'm going to just draw across. And so there's, and if you mess up on drawing your lines, this is water soluble pin, you can just take a Q-tip, a wet Q-tip, and go across the line and it'll come off. Which I had to do that because I messed up when I was going the other direction when I first started this. So I'm going to continue making my 2-inch marks. Just keeping it lined up. And also, sometimes, I'll show you, yeah, it's on this edge. When I was doing the batting, I didn't have a batting piece that was long enough, so I had to, as long as you keep them really, really close together, you'll be okay as far as laying them on there together. This is trying to tip over on me. Let me turn you this way so this won't tip over. Alright, so I just laid these pieces really, really close to one another. You will have to, once we start pinning it, everything should do okay. It will keep trying to shift on you as you're drawing lines on it. So I'm going to continue with my lines. And once I get this direction all drawn, then I'll do the other direction for my lines. And these are just what you're going to follow when you're sewing it. So this is the part you'll be quilting. It's nice if you can find pre-quilted fabric, but then again, you may not like the pre-quilted fabric for what you want to do. Like I'm a fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, and so I had a lot of that type of fabric on hand, and I decided that's what I was going to do for my laptop thing instead of, I had that other fabric on hand, but I wanted to do something different, so that's why I picked my Nightmare Before Christmas, and a solid color on the bottom, because I'm not going to see the pocket a whole lot because it's going to be hanging off on the side of my laptop area, so that wasn't really a big deal to me. And really, this is on the corner, so I don't have to sew that. My fabric kinda didn't quite. There we go. So now I've got all the directional lines going this way. So now I have to finish and go the other direction. So I'm going to line this up the other way. Let's see. I'm not getting the ones down there. The lighting's kind of playing with me a little bit. Yeah, I think that's... Okay, so now we're going to do more. Get the rest of this. And I should get this and really quilting, if you're not doing all the squares and so forth, this part is really what they consider quilting, is because you're quilting the fabric together. But I like making the squares and so forth too. See, I think some of that got shifted a little bit. And I don't know. I guess this will be... I guess I will do this edge because that's still quite a bit. Oh, I did 2 lines there. I wonder why I did that twice. Oh well. Alright, so now I got my directional lines going both ways. So now that I have all of those marked, I can go ahead and pin everything. And when you're quilting, you always start pinning in the middle and go outwards. And that's what I had started doing on this one. I went on this direction because I wanted to get some of the sewing done, so I already sewed some of the lines. Which, this is not really a quilt, so it's not going to shift as much as a big project like a quilt would shift on you. So it's really not that bad. Let's see here. So you want to make sure that you pin it. They say usually hand width away from each other. And these squares kind of lend themselves to kind of telling me where to pin them. And these pins are a lot easier to use than regular safety pins because they're bent, so they kind of make it easier when you're pinning your fabric. Except I found some of these pins I bought don't go through the fabric really good. Some of them are really great, and some of them don't go through at all. They get stuck in the fabric and poke a really big hole in there. But I've done pretty good with most of them. Let's see. My extension cord here is not working real great. So just going to continue pinning this. And with a really big quilted area, you're going to keep smoothing it and smoothing it out to make everything nice and flat. And I'm going to look, make sure my stuff hasn't moved on me. And so I'm just going to pin this to the end. And the lady that I watched her video, she's a quilter, and she went ahead and pre-quilted her fabric ahead of time, so all she did was showed you how to do the organizer part. Because I think she kind of, her videos were meant for people she knew already that were quilters, and so she knew they didn't need any help with learning how to quilt their own fabric. And I'm going to go ahead and pin the end a little bit. I'll have to move these because I'm putting them right over the lines of where I'm going to be sewing. Typically that's not where you're going to do that. I guess I'll pin it down here on the edge, because I really don't, it's really not a good idea to pin it there. But it's just so close. I want to make sure. Well, I'll just kind of do it this way for now. So once you've got it pinned, and I probably should pin some of these areas down here, even though I didn't seem to have any, well, I didn't seem to have any problem whenever I was quilting on the other end, so, because it's not a big piece. Alright, so now that we've got it pinned, you always start sewing on the lines in the middle, wherever your middle section is, and you start going in one direction, like this direction, and you sew all of your lines until you get to the very, very end here and do all of your lines this direction. That's the first part. Now, when you do your next part, you're going to start on this end, and I'm going to sew from this direction. So I'm going to sew this way, all of these lines this way. And that's what I'm going to do next. When I finish that, then I'll do the other direction lines. But what I'll do is I'll flip sides, and I'll flip over here, and I'll start in the middle, and I'll go that direction until I get all my lines. And then when I get them, then I'll start on the lines that I didn't do yet, and I'll start on this side going this direction. It's like, let me show you, this is really, if you ever want to just some beginning quilting, this is a really good book, and the library actually has it. I liked it so well I went online and purchased a copy off of Amazon, but the thing I just got through talking about, they have a nice little diagram here showing you what I was talking about, where there's nice and squared, they're not diagonal, but you start in the middle and sew down all your lines first this direction, and then once you get those done, then you start on the other end and you sew in that direction up this way. Once you get all of those lines, all the ones going up and down, done, then you'll start in the middle of your other direction, and you'll do all of them that way. When you finish them, you start in the middle again and you sew this way. And that's basic quilting, and that's a really simple way to learn how to do it. And like I said, this is a really great book. Hey Terry, nice to see you there. I hadn't really had too many people watching here lately. I've been kind of having people on and off. They might already know how to quilt and are being bored by this part. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do my sewing. Like I said, I've already sewn in this direction all my lines. So now I'm going to start on this side and sew my lines also in the diagonal in that direction. So hopefully this won't take too long, because once I get it quilted, the rest of it is really super simple. So let's go and sew. And another thing I did not tell people that they would need, because I kind of assumed people would buy their own pre-quilted fabric, is that if you do go ahead and quilt your own fabric, you're going to need a walking foot for your sewing machine if you don't have one, because that's one of the most important things that you're going to need when quilting. I don't believe you could really quilt without it. I guess you could try, but I don't know how possible that would be, because that would be really difficult, I believe, honestly. Alright, let's see. I've rearranged all my stuff. So, and I've got my walking foot on my machine. And so here's my lines, and I started on this side. So I'm going to flip my fabric, which is going to be kind of difficult with this being this close. I'm going to have to move it back, and you kind of have to roll up your fabric to make sure that you've got enough room to feed it through. And then I'm going to line it up. And the nice thing about this is you can just get your line right down the middle here, and just that's how you can make sure that you're nice and straight. And I'm going to try to get a little closer here. It's kind of hard to do. And this is kind of at an angle. Let's see if I can put y'all not quite at an angle anymore so it looks a little better. Let's see. That looks a little more straight. Okay. So it's all getting all the stuff lined up. Okay, so I'm going to start with my needle and my fabric, and then I'm going to back up. Oh, you know what? It would help if I turned on my sewing machine. I didn't have it turned on, which kind of surprises me. I've been sewing today, so I'm shocked that I didn't have it turned on. And since I'm having my fabric all rolled up here, I'm going to have to move it around just a little bit. And you're going to hold your fabric apart and try to keep it nice and smooth. And then I'm going to push that pin, kind of try to keep it out of the way. Oh, hey Shay, hey Cindy. Got some more people. Let me go ahead and put y'all down. I think I've had people kind of coming and going on this one because I hadn't had anyone stick around. I think the people watching might be quilters, and that's why they haven't stuck around for this part. So I probably could have just skipped over the quilting part, because it doesn't seem like that's what people's really interested in. Let's see here. I'm going to back up. Alright, so that's my first part. And I also noticed that, I gotta get my scissors here, that I'm not going to have enough of this thread that I picked out. So I'm going to have to switch thread at one point. I'm going to try, I wonder if my thing is, oh well, it just says one person is watching again, but, alright, so I got that line done. I'm going to put my scissors somewhere else. Alright, so I'm going to do this next one. So I'm just going to continue doing these lines. I'm going to try to hurry up and do them, since this part doesn't seem to be that interesting to most people. Or it's not something people want to learn at this point in time, I guess. The quilting part. Don't want it to get bunched up. Yeah, when you're dealing with big pieces of fabric, it kind of So I got that one. Cut that. And then, alright, so here we go. Do one more line. Start with that. And I'm not pushing my fabric through. I'm just pulling it apart. Ooh, don't want that to get in the way. Okay. All right. Okay, looks like I've got quite a few more lines to go here. I guess I should have had more of this quilted ahead of time for you guys. But you never know when you're doing stuff like this what people would be interested in. Okay, so I'm still going in the same direction. Move my pen. And your hands can get kind of sore holding the fabric apart like this, but getting closer to the edge, and let's see here. Let's do my next line. Okay. Alright, so let's do my next line. I guess, if mine had been a smaller piece, like for my actual sewing machine, instead of my laptop like this one's going to be, probably would not have taken as long to quilt. This one's quite long. Back up. Okay. So it looks like I got 3 more rows, but they're not very long ones because they're at the very end. Let's see, I gotta get that back up out of the way. Where'd my thread go? There's that thread. So where'd my other one go? Let's see here. There they are. When I had went back down in there, it kind of got caught there. Alright, so let's do this. Okay, got that, and I've only got one more on the end here, and then I'll be able to, nope, two more. Trying to hurry. Okay, one more on this end, and then I can go the other direction, and we'll see if I have enough thread to make it, because, oops, the particular color I picked, I didn't realize the spool was not completely full. I've used it before, and I don't think it's going to make it for this entire project. It's actually getting pretty low right now. Okay, so I got it that direction. So now, and these are all the lines going this way from here to here. Now I need to get my lines going this direction, and you have to start in the middle. Since I was starting on this side, I'll have to start on this opposite side to do those lines, and you have to do that in the middle. So you just kind of, what I do is I fold my fabric in half. I just folded it in half, and that's my middle section right there. And so I will start with my lines right here. You can't really see, but I'm going to fold up my fabric. Alright, so now I'm going to start doing my lines this way, and I'm going to do this direction all this way. So now it's a little bit different as far as getting everything lined up because my fabric and everything. Alright, so start with that in. Did my thread come loose? Looks like it disappeared on me, so I guess it did. Alright, so I'm going to turn this until it comes out. And I'm going to rethread my machine. I did not realize my thread was that short. And just go ahead and rethread this. It's a little, my thing that threads for me, it won't thread for me when I have the walking foot attached. So I have to do it myself. But I can usually get it in there some of the time. Not when I have all the stuff in front of it like I do right now, but we'll see how well I do. Hey, I think I did it. Yep. Alright. So, ooh, it tried to get wrapped around back there on my walking foot, and that's not something it needs to do. Okay, there we go. So now I've got it. Okay, now I can put it in there. I'll look back here, make sure everything looks okay. Yeah. I don't want that pin in the way. Alright, pin, don't get in my way. Push that pin out of the way. Okay. Alright, so there's that. I've got lots of threads hanging off because I haven't been cutting them off as I go. So, alright, so now I need to look for my next line. I'm gonna bunch up my fabric some more. Trying to keep it straight. Alright, so I'm going to back up just a tiny bit. Try to keep all of this straight. I was going to see if anyone had any questions, but doesn't seem like anyone's watching right now, so if anyone does pop on, feel free to ask any questions, because this part right here is just purely just straight sewing, so it's not anything that's difficult at all. So, but if you just pop in and you're new and you're wondering what I'm working on, you can ask me a question, I don't mind. Okay. Alright, so let's find my next one. Wish there was a way I could keep this fabric from bunching up so much. It's just so long. Alright, so I'm getting close. I've got to get the lines done on this side and then the opposite side, and then I'll be ready to do the bias tape part. Okay, move that out of the way. I'm just keeping all these lines lined up, which I'm not doing such a great job at times because the fabric gets a little hard to deal with sometimes just because there's so much of it. Okay. Alright. And I have lots of threads everywhere too, but pull on that. I'm getting really close to the end of my thread here. I guess, I should have switched my thread. Oh well, I'll switch whenever I run out, I guess, because I've already started with this one. Let's see. This is just for me. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, if I was making it for someone, I wouldn't be too happy about that. And I probably wouldn't do it. I'd probably make sure I went back to the store and bought some more of the same color thread instead of using a different kind. But, like I said, this is for me, so I don't care if I switch to a different kind. Oh boy, there's a lot of thread in here right now. Alright, so I'm going to back up at the beginning here. Okay. keeping it nice and tight is a good idea. Trying to keep the fabric nice and smooth. And don't hit your hand. Is that? Oh well. I'm going to back up. Okay. I might get one more row done with this thread, I think, and then I'll have to switch. If I don't run out in the middle. Okay, now that I got all these little threads every direction. Okay. Let's try to get lined up. Oh, hey, Brandy. I'm just doing my lines right now that I have drawn on here to get this quilted. And if you've quilted before, this is nothing new. Once I get the quilting part done, to put the bias tape on, and there's the way I did my bias tape on the one that I made, I was kind of I didn't really do it the right way. I did a quick way that worked for me, but it's not going to be the way that I show y'all, because the way I did it on mine was really the wrong way to do it. Because things can get messed up on you. I'm going to move this one out of the way because it's in the way whenever I get here. Well, keep thinking I'm going to run out of thread, but I've got a tiny bit left. And my next row, I might be able to get my next row, or my next line anyway. So I'll give it a shot. Let me move this all out of the way again. And there's not a whole lot of room in here for my hand. Let's see if I can scoop my hand in here. There's so much fabric now. And I don't have a very big sewing machine. I just kind of have a basic one. It's got a quilting table that goes with it, but the quilting table goes out this other direction this way. So that's kind of helpful, but when everything's on this side, over here, it just kind of makes it kind of hard. Okay. Alright, I made it to this end with this. Okay. Let's pull that out of there. And since I've got some short rows to go, I might continue on with the same thread. I know I keep saying that. It's hard to know when you're getting close to the end of your thread how much further it's going to go. With quilting, it's really difficult to know. Okay, so I'm going to line that up there. Alright, so I'm going to scoot that out of the way. And that line, I kind of doubled it up, so it's kind of hard to tell where exactly I meant to make my line, because my fabric kind of moved on me when I was drawing that line. Okay. Alright. My believe that I'm probably, let's see, I only got one little line left. Okay, so I'm going to try it and see if I can finish it off with this thread. Except something just came loose. I think it was this. Yeah. Let's see what happens. Got this tiny little line to do. So I'm going to try it. Probably not going to work, but... I did it! Can't believe it. Made it. Alright. And then I'll put my new thread on. Alright. I'm just going to pull that on out of there. And get my bobbin out because I do not have anything left on top. So, taking that one out. I'm going to put, this one's kind of like a multicolored one. I figured it'll blend good enough with the thread I was already using. So I'm going to give it a shot and see. And it's all purple anyway, that Nightmare Before Christmas fabric that I'm working with. So let's see, where's my cover at? And with this, it's a little bit easier to get it in there if the foot is down on that walking foot. And I can't see. Where's my scissors? I'm going to give myself a... Woo! That came out of my hand. Let me clip the end of that off. It should be able to get that in there better. Yep. It's always difficult whenever you're doing this. Anyway, and then if you got a bunch of stuff in front of you, I was able to thread it earlier with no problem. Okay, so maybe if I stand right in front of it. Did I get it? I believe I did. Okay. Alright, so let's get that thread and knock that loose. And there, it's kind of multicolored thread. It's or variegated thread, I guess is what I should say. Alright, so I finished sewing, and I was sewing from this direction to this direction. Now I've got to sew these lines, but I got to start on the other end because you go on the opposite side. So I'm going to roll up my fabric from that side. Okay. I've got threads everywhere. Alright, so here we go, and this will be the last bit of sewing with this, and then with my bias tape I'm using black bias tape, so I will switch to black thread for it. Move that out of the way. The fabric's staying pretty well apart for me without me having to put as much effort into pulling the fabric apart because I've already gotten a lot of it already quilted. I'm excited to show the other side of it to see how the thread is going to look. this variegated thread is kind of going to give it an interesting look. I kind of wish I had started with it, but I didn't really think it would look right. And then whenever I got faced with not having enough of the other thread, I'm like, well, actually, I think it'll look kind of neat. Okay, let's see. Hey Linda, while you were there, it's kind of weird. It's like people are appearing and disappearing quickly. I'm wondering if something's going on. No one's really sticking with me. Or maybe it's just that I'm quilting, and that's not what people want to learn this time. Who knows? I don't. I can only speculate. Alright, so not too much more to go. Scoot that out of the way. Always looks like I'm getting closer to the edge, and then I pull it out and go, huh, wow, no, not as close to the edge as I thought. Let's get that lined up. I guess most of this video is just going to look like just me sewing. Alright. Okay. Slowly, but I'm getting it. Row after row. Okay. Let's see, how many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 5 rows left to go after this one. Trying not to push my fabric. I'm getting in a hurry here. Threads all over the place. Okay, oops. Okay, so next row. It's very repetitive, not very interesting to watch anyway, I don't believe. Okay, and let's see here. And 4 more to go. Yay! Okay. 3 more to go. Oops, I'm knocking over my other stuff over there. Okay. All this thread, I'm going to have to cut loose here. Oh, my needle is a little too far down. Okay. So glad that I'm almost getting to the end here. Don't know if anyone's going to come back and see the end or not, but people can watch it later, I suppose. Okay. I have one more. Yay. All this. Get this thread out of the way. Alright, all done with that. It's all rolled up in there, isn't it? Okay, so now that we've gotten everything quilted, the fun part, which is, now that we got it quilted, is going to be cutting all the threads off and also pinning our bias tape in place to sew it. So I'm going to get some of my stuff together and take this over here so you guys can see. So we're going to go over to here and I'm going to cut off all my threads and I'm going to pin all of my bias tape. And I'm also going to get all of these pins out of here, these safety pins. Actually, I'm going to turn this around because we don't need these safety pins anymore. That was just for the quilting part. Which I'm wondering, yeah, I guess that other thread did look okay. It just kind of, I got lighter and darker. I think that worked out pretty good. Even though I ran out of that kind. Some of this, and since I'm using this as a laptop cover, or not cover, but laptop organizer, kind of like, I mean, it's just like the sewing machine one, except, like I said, the pocket for this one, I'm going to put it hanging off of the side of my table that my laptop is sitting on, so I can throw little small things that I want to keep up with that I don't have room for them on top, or I don't, because I have a limited space where I have my laptop, and I'm actually going to use it as a mouse pad area, because currently I'm using a mouse pad for my laptop, but it's kind of funky area that I have. It's the table I'm using is not meant for a computer or or a laptop. I just kind of made it into one. It's actually one of those little secretary tables, so it's kind of small-ish area to work with. So I'm just trying to make it work, because it's my craft room that I have it in, and my husband's got the room that's kind of what we consider our computer room, because it's got our printer and his laptop and so forth, and he's got an actual computer table. But my craft room it's got jam-packed with so many things that I really couldn't have a computer table, typical one, because I don't have enough room. I'm going to bring my trash can over here, so I'll have a close place. I know this is boring to you guys, but I really need to get these threads off of here before I start putting my bias tape on there, because that'll make it a big mess if I don't. Let's see. I wish I could just line them all up and then use like a rotary cutter and cut all my threads off, but I'd have to smooth them all out anyway, but so excuse me for this boring part. I guess I don't have any threads on that edge. Let's see. And then my actual fabric has threads coming off of it too, so it makes it difficult to see what I need to cut. So I'm just cutting it all. If my fabric wants to kind of come, let's see. I might have needed to cut these off as I was going, because it was getting underneath my threads even, it looks like. As I was sewing, I was trying to do this quickly so people wouldn't have to wait on me so much. Yep, I kind of sewed over a bunch of stuff. Okay, lots of threads here. I didn't get them all. Threads everywhere. And I'll have to get the other side too. Wow. Trying to make this as efficient as possible as far as getting rid of this stuff. And I don't want all these other little threads either from the fabric. Wow, it's on the other side. Oh, they got underneath there while I was sewing. Okay, let's see what we can get. Trim all of that loose. So much to cut. And I thought this was gonna be the easy part. It's so not. I guess because I kept sewing over threads that were hanging off. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. All right. get everything. Okay. I think almost got all the threads on this side. Anything hanging off the sides over here. Okay, so now I get to do this edge. Maybe I can flip it over and see. Hopefully I didn't get as much of it. Sorry, this is taking so long just to get my loose threads. And then fabric kind of gets a little messy too. But yeah, the next part of this we will be lining up our bias tape to do the edges. I'm going to do the end that the pocket's going to be on first, because you're just, that part is real easy. You just sew that into place. You don't sew the pocket into place, but you sew the bias tape into place, and then you fold over the area that you want to be your pocket. Ooh, my back is hurting from leaning over doing this. Let's see. Any more pieces? Oh, there's some over here. Looks like I might have got the threads on that end. And make sure there's nothing. It's just fabrics. Alright. So now I got to figure out, with mine, how I'm going to do it is, since mine's going to be for my laptop, and I'm going to have it on the edge, this is the way I'm going to have it laying down. There's some more threads. I'm going to have mine, this is going to be the end that I'm going to have the pocket on, because I want it on the right hand side. I don't want it on the left hand side because I want it closer to my right side where I'm probably going to be grabbing things. So that's why I want my pocket on this side. So I'm going to put bias tape on this edge, and then I'm going to fold it over. And you can ignore these blue lines, because when I get completely done with this, I'm going to wash it, and these blue lines will disappear. And if I didn't want to wash it, I could use a Q-tip that is wet, and I could wipe off those lines if I want to. So there's, you don't have to worry about those being there. Okay, so let me get my bias tape. I already measured how long this end was, so I'm going to turn this so you can see me doing it, and I'm also going to roll up. I'm also going to make this go further away so you can see a little bit better, so we're not so on top of everything. Alright, so I'm going to take my bias tape and open it up. What I'm going to do is we're going to take the side. Let's see, I'm trying to look and see what side's the big side and the little side. Huh. Almost like they folded it the same way. Okay. It's hard for me to see when it's black. Okay, so I'm going to pin it across, and I'm going to have it go off the edge here. And I'm going to pin it where the edge of my bias tape is lined up with the edge of my fabric. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, you can't see because this is black bias tape, it's really hard to see. But where the inside first fold line is, that's where I'm going to sew all the way across the top. And then once I get that sewed, I'm going to flip it over to the other side. And once you flip it over to the other side, you can either hand sew, which most quilters are going to hand sew it. I'm not going to. I'm going to use my machine. It looks prettier when you hand sew it into place because it's an invisible stitch where you can't see it. Of course, if you sew it with your sewing machine, it's not going to be invisible. You're actually going to see it. I don't mind seeing it on there. It doesn't bother me. This is just something if I was doing it as a gift for someone, it would bother me and I would hand stitch it. But this is for me, so I don't care. So now I've got it pinned in place, and I'm going to sew down this line all the way down. Once I get that sewed down, then I'm going to fold it over, and then from the other side I'll sew that side down. So that's what we're going to do next. And I'll have to change out, I don't have black thread on my machine right now, so I'm going to switch it out. So I'm going to lower you back down so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so there's that. Get this other thread out of here, I don't need it anymore because of the rest of the sewing. I'm going to hang on to this because when I do the outside pocket area, I am going to switch back to this colorful thread. I'm not going to use, I don't think I would, we'll see. I don't know. I guess it would look okay using black thread to sew it down too, because the Nightmare Before Christmas fabric does have black in the pattern. It's not a lot. It might look okay that way. It's all just depending on your preference on how you want, because it's going to be a stitch you're going to see. So you just have to think about what color do you want to be seen when you're doing that. And I still have my walking foot on here. I think I might go ahead and leave it on there. Technically not still doing quilting, but I'm not still really quilting. I'm just putting bias tape on. But I'm working with quilted fabric. So when you've got bulkier fabric when you're sewing with it, sometimes it's a good idea to go ahead and it's more likely to pull everything through at the same time if you're using the walking foot. And I want to start sewing where my fabric is. My bias tape is a little bit longer than my fabric. Oops. So I'm just moving my stuff around under my table here so I can actually get my foot to the sewing foot there. And I'm going to walk it forward just a little bit. Then I'm going to back it up. And I'm just, this might be difficult for you guys to see. I'm going to tilt it where maybe you can see it a little bit better. I'm sewing right down here where the fold is at. I need to get that out of the way. Every time I pull this needle out, I hit the camera. I'm sorry about that. Don't mean to be jostling it around. And then I'm going to back up here. Alright. So I've sewed that down. that off. And I cut the excess threads off the end here too, before I end up having a bunch of more threads everywhere. And turn where y'all can see. Alright, so now I've gotten that. I'm going to fold this over to this side, and you can pin it, but I like clips. You can use these too. If I could find the front of it. I like to clip it down when it comes to bias tape. You can do it however you want to. You can use your pins to pin it down too. But I just choose to do my clips because I like them. Because see, that line that you sewed earlier, this is, I have put it on a way where it's going to cover it up. So let's see here. So I'm just clipping up to hold it in place. Just make sure that it's lying nice and flat. And I'm not going to clip the very end because that's where I'm going to start sewing. Is that on that end? So I'm going to insert it right here. And I'm going to pull that away. And you're going to sew on the edge there. Right there on the edge. There we go. I like to always... Oh. You guys couldn't even see that. I'm getting... And with black fabric and thread, it's going to be kind of hard to see. I'm going to back up. Oh, sorry. And I'm just sewing right down the edge there to hold it down. And I'll move that out of the way. This is going to be the end that my pocket's going to be on. I do like these clips when I'm working with bias tape. Instead of pinning it, I mean, I'll pin it down initially with pins when I'm putting the edge on there. But yeah, you like them too. They're expensive, but lucky me. Walmart had this box of, is the brand, I forgot the name of the brand, but it was a brand name of those clips, and they were clearanced at Walmart really cheap. I forget exactly how much, but it was about more than half price compared to what they usually are, which it still was, I think, $15 for them. But normally for this box, I mean, I forget how many is in this box, but it's a lot. But you can buy cheaper ones online, though. I found that out later. Okay, so here's my edge here, and of course black gets fuzz on it. And I got my edge of my pocket. So the way mine's going to work is this is going to be the top part. And I'm going to fold it over, and this, like I said, this is I already did one for my sewing machine, and I didn't want to do another organizer for my sewing machine. But when I showed the organizer to my boss at work, she's like, "Oh, that would be so cool! You could have one of those to put by your computer, even hanging off your desk for that." And then that made me think, ooh, I would like to have one for my laptop, and I want to have it hanging off on the right hand side. So this is what's going to be showing. Now the lines are the washable, you know, markers that you use to mark with, so it's just going to be a solid purple with the where I sewed down the edges there, and that's all that's going to really show. And then to divide it up to have different pockets, like we're going to sew down these directions Okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to put bias tape on the sides here, on both sides, going all the way around the whole project. And then once we get that, then we'll sew down, like decide on what size pockets we want to have. I'm going to show you real quick, you know, the one that I made. And this was pre-quilted fabric. What I was doing tonight was not already quilted, so I had to go through the whole quilting process. And then that's my bias tape on here. And see, I made one really big pocket, and then I made a smaller pocket for, just depending on what you plan on putting there, you make the pockets whatever size you want. And literally all you're doing is you're starting, I usually start at the top and sew down and double up, and then go all the way to the down to the bottom, and then double up here, you know, back up. And you just do your lines all the way down depending on how big of pockets that you want to have. I wanted one really big pocket here, and then smaller pockets over here. I hadn't quite decided how I wanted to do this one yet. I think I want to have one maybe for like pins or something that I can lay in there. So I'll probably have a slightly bigger pocket, and then maybe one for smaller things like notepads and post-it notes and different things like that. So I'm thinking probably just 2 basic pockets on this one. So now I've got this. I'm going to get my threads off of here. So now that I got this part done, now I have to pin my bias tape all the way around this. And this one's really long because it's for a different purpose, so you know, my laptop thing, so it's a different size. And you can, this is a neat project that you can kind of do what you want with it, you know. You don't have to necessarily, I like projects that you can kind of come up with different ways to change it for whatever purpose that you want to have. So I'm going to measure this because I had originally decided that was going to be 4 inches deep. So I want to make sure that when I fold it into place, it's going to be 4 inches on both sides. And make sure I think I actually did that. Except for on this side. This side, oops. It's like I didn't do it straight. That's because I needed it to be lined up with that. Oh well, this side is a little bit taller. It's alright. It'll be okay. And this, I think I will use my clips again instead of, well, no, I can't because I'm going to be opening up my bias tape to do that. Thank you. Thanks. It actually looks a lot more, it's a deeper purple in person and than it is on camera, which is kind of weird. Even if you look at the fabric on Joann's website, this fabric looks a lot lighter on their website than it actually does in person. I'm going to trim those edges off. I made them a little longer. And since this is quilted, you can always use a rotary cutter to cut all of this straight again if you messed up on your measurements or something, which I don't think I'm going to bother with it. I'm just going to cut that because it's going to get sewed back down again. Alright, so what I'm going to do, and I did a cheating way on the other one I did it. I actually literally just stuck it on here like so and sewed it down rather than doing the correct way of opening up the bias tape and sewing it down and then flipping it over and sewing it over again. That's really the proper way of doing it. But I was in a hurry and I didn't want to do that on my other one. There's a trick to the corners too that I'll have to show you. I had to go back and look at my quilting books to make sure, and I had to practice it too. I'm looking at my mistake here to remember how I did that. So I should do I always fold it the wrong edge. It's supposed to be, yeah, this edge. What they say, the smallest edge, and this is the biggest edge over here. Oh, well, I'm still trying to... Yep, I keep trying to turn it the wrong direction. Because, well, I need... Okay, just so I can quit confusing myself, I'm going to do it on this side. Because I can't quite get it right. Alright, so that's... this. See, why do I always do that? I'm going to start on the... Yeah, I keep confusing myself. Because that's the bigger one. I always say the smallest. Okay. Because I keep the... When I did it last time, I did it on the small side, which the big side is the side I need it on. Yeah, okay, you got it right. Opal. And I also... I did my edge differently whenever... I'm going to pin this in place so then I can mess around with the end here. I don't want to keep messing things up. So, come on, I don't want to get that. I just want to get... Well, that's fine. So you're going to take your edge and line it up with this. Trying to make sure my fabric doesn't shift on me. Alright. And I believe once I get that sewed down, then I'll be able to do my folding of my... I'm trying to make sure that that's sticking down far enough to... I might want to make it a little bit longer, but I pre-measured this, so I hope I didn't cut myself short. I think that should be enough room to work with as far as folding it whenever I get to that part. And so this is going to take a lot more pins than that. So I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way and get me a few more pins. But that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to move that stuff out of the way. I'm going to go all the way around my piece here, pinning my bias tape in place. You're going to pin it open, and then you're going to sew all the way around. Because you're going to sew down the... And if you watched my video on the making the mask, the face mask, we did it with bias tape, and this was the same thing that we did when we were doing the mask, as far as how we folded open the bias tape. We just didn't... It was a much smaller area that we went across with it, and plus we sewed the bias tape closed on the ends to make it ties. And this, we won't be doing anything like that, because we're going to be using the bias tape all the way around. And the corners are the fun parts. Hopefully I won't get tripped up on it. I'll just glance at my book and refresh my memory on that part. I've only made 2 quilts, so I'm not real good on remembering all of the stuff about how you quilt. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to glance at my handy dandy book that I actually checked this out from the library, and really liked it so well that I went on to Amazon and found someone that was selling it. But the library, I think there's at least 4 libraries that carry this one. It's an older quilting book, but I have found that it's got a lot of great basic information in it. Okay, so when we're looking at our bias tape, when we're sewing the binding down, we sew along the edge there, and they're not showing that part. I know you fold that up, but you sew within, like, however far, let's see, how this is going to turn. Like, say, what I need to measure this. That's what I need to do. I have to sew within. So that, how wide is that? So we're going to measure that. Alright, so that's how wide that little section is. Let's make it more correct. So I want to sew to the edge within that mark. So whenever I'm sewing, I only want to sew to right there. Right in that little spot right there. That's where I'm going to have to stop when I'm sewing down this corner here. And then I might stop and then just repin everything at that point, because I'll sew to that point, and then I have to fold it. Yeah, I'll have to unpin it and everything to do that. The video I watched, that actually, they were doing their own bias tape. And so I'm just going to pin this, and we're going to sew there, and when we get to the corner, then I'll have to do some changes here, because I'm going to have to move that out of the way. I'll sew to right there, and then you have to, oh gosh, you have to fold it like so. Oh, and that's not gonna work with this type of bias tape, is it? Because they're showing they keep it on the edge. Maybe I should do it the way that I did it. Let's see. It's not gonna quite work, because they were doing theirs differently. Darn. I really thought this was gonna work. I guess I might cheat then and do it the way I did it on the other one. That's a little bit easier, because I don't want to make this too complicated. Because you can clip it down and sew both sides. It's not as pretty, but it actually will be easier to show you guys. And I try not to make this program too long, and I'm noticing it's almost 9 o'clock, so I'm going to show you the sweet and dirty version of doing this. A quilter would say, don't you ever do that. Don't do it that way, because it's not the right way to do it. Okay, so we're going to do it the same way I did my other one. We're not going to be as pretty with it. So, whenever I was starting on the corner here, unfolding and everything, you want the this to go over a little bit, and then I kind of folded that over the whole edge. Well, it's going to be kind of hard. This one's a lot bulkier than the other one I did, so it's going to be a little more harder to work with. Okay, so you want to tuck it in enough where that's not going to stick out. So it's going to be covered up like so. So where's my clips? We're going to clip it down. Alright. So that's the part you really have to have you definitely don't want it to stick out any. Alright, so we want to make sure that the other side is completely covered. And then we've got all these little pieces that want to show. We don't want any of that to show, so you're just going to have to keep it tucked in. The hardest part is going to be the part with the pocket, because it's the bulkiest. So I'm just trying to get it as tightly. You don't want it to bunch up. So I'm going to move this down here. I'm going to have that one a little bit closer. There's probably going to be more clips here than I will have further down because, let me move this so y'all can see a little bit better. I don't want the pocket to come loose. Probably should have a clip handy, and I didn't. So if you really want to learn about quilting, it's not going to be from me, because I'm not what I would call a real quilter. I'm a fly by my seat of my pants learning type stuff. I'm going to slide that down a little bit more to tighten that up. Okay, so just make sure it's on both sides and there's no pieces of string sticking out anywhere. Let's see. And on my other one, I did this as I went too. I didn't clip everything in place, because the quilted fabric that you can buy that's pre-quilted, it's not as thick as the stuff whenever you quilt it. Whatever they use as batting is super thin, but I didn't have any of that type of batting on hand. I only had some cotton batting on hand because that's what I've bought previously for other projects that I've made. I've never bought any really thin batting before because I've never had a project that called for it. So I would probably recommend, because for a project like this, you really don't want it to be super thick. So I would just go ahead and see if you could find some of the really thin, and that's synthetic batting that was in the one that I showed you. It's not cotton. The reason why I use the cotton is because I made baby blankets and I wanted it, I don't know, I just kind of thought it'd be nicer to be all cotton. Easier to wash and dry. I guess synthetic's easy to wash and dry too. I think maybe some stuff I had read they had recommended for quilts to use the cotton. I didn't know what I was doing, so I was following the directions of what I was reading, what they recommended more for what I was making. Alright, so I'm just continuing to, and I'm kind of covering up all of the back stitches I did whenever I was doing the quilting part on the very end, so this way you don't see all those back stitches. They're getting covered up, which is nice. Alrighty. I'm trying to not take too long to do this, but alright. Wonderful corner. Now, doing the corner, This, you just have to be good at folding it in. So I got, alright, want to do a nice little angle, and you have to do it on both sides, which can be kind of hard. I got that corner folded, and then, oh, and there's a little, there we go, thread of the fabric that was trying to, I wonder if I could pin one side, because I've got that side nice, but I don't have my other side, so let's pin you down so you don't move on me while I'm trying to do my other side. And you just try to fold it under at a nice little angle so that you have, ooh, keeps moving on me. And then it would help, I'm going to go ahead and kind of pin this so that will quit giving me problems, and try really hard, there we go, to get my nice little corner. Yay, on both sides. So now I'm going to clip it in place, and then I'm going to move this clip and help smooth it down. Alright, so that way I got it's not a perfect corner, but it'll work. Oh, threads, and then you'll want to double check on the front side. When I was clipping by looking at the back side, you want to look at the front side before you get started sewing to make sure you don't have any little threads that are poking through, that are showing through, that you don't want to show. I started lining everything up on this side now, but it really didn't matter. Okay, so now we got to the corner again. So we're going to fold it like so. It's like I can get the front one. Nope, not quite. Okay. So now we're going to do the back side. It may not be the way I want it. Wait a second, I think I got it. Let's see. Yep, I got it. Yay. Alright, so let's bring this around over there, uncurl some of this, and lay it under there. Get any little stray threads out of the way. So I really need that. And the project, if you do a sewing machine organizer, yours is not going to take nearly as long as this one. The other one I made, it probably took me less than 30 minutes to do, because I had the pre-quilted fabric, and then the bias tape, and really the most effort really was just measuring it out to make sure that it fit the area that I was going to put it in. This one is so much longer than the one for my sewing machine, because it's spanning the length of my desk. So that's why it's so much longer. But it just, I wanted to show where it was versatile, that say that you didn't want it for your sewing machine, you wanted it for your computer desk area instead. I'm just showing you that, you know, you can always take a project that's intended for one thing, and you can always modify the project and use it for something else if you want. I like doing that with crocheting and knitting too, because I've seen projects that were intended for one thing. I was like, oh, that would make a good so-and-so instead of that, or because that's not something that I like. Maybe I don't wear mittens or something. Maybe I'd like leggings instead or something. You know, you can convert something, a project, you know, that's meant for that, for something else. So never be afraid to do that with patterns that you find, to try to modify them for some, if you think of something else that you would like to use it for instead, then go for it, because there's no reason why you can't. Okay, now I'm at the very end, and I'm going to fold this in. You're going to leave, about 1 inch or so to fold in. So I just fold it down and just fold over. But I'm going to have to undo that because it's not quite folding flat the way I want it to. Okay, well, it sticks out a little bit. That's going to be underneath, and I'm not going to be able to see it, so I don't really care. Alright, so now it's ready to be sewn, and I've already got my black thread on the sewing machine. So I'm going to move this over here and sew it, and we'll be practically done at that point. Once we, that's really all we're going to be doing, is sewing around the edges to sew the bias tape down, and then I'm going to sew down the pocket area the way that I want my pockets, you know, how wide I want them. I'm only going to do probably one line down the middle so I can have 2 pockets, is the way I plan on doing mine. So alright, so I'm looking to make sure that everything looks like it's holding together right and not coming apart on me. And I am going to leave my walking foot on here because this is pretty bulky, so I don't, let's see, oh, my needle is not quite far enough up for me. Alright, so I'm going to start a little ways in, and this is really bulky. I'm going to scoot this way just a tad, if it'll let me. I don't know if it's going to let me. I think I'm good enough though. Alright, so let's see if I can scoot in just a little bit more, because ow, I hit my knee. Alright, oh, Patrice and Nancy, hey, how are y'all doing? Okay, so I'm going to back up a couple of stitches, and I'm so close and it's so bulky, I kind of manually did that. And then I'm gonna have to move a few things around so I can get my hands in there. All right. Everything, yeah, that's looking good. This has taken me quite a bit longer than what I had planned on. Next time I'll keep it simpler. Well, I'm going to lift my... There we go. Not quite. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to go just to the corner. And I'm going to do this myself because I want everything to work right. There we go. It's always better to go slower around the corners. Oh, dear. Something fell. Oh, a box of buttons. Oh, the thing I'm sewing so long, it scooted something off my table, so it's okay. I had a box of Christmas buttons, I think, or there were some kind of seasonal buttons I had on the table here, and this project right here went and it's so long that it just pushed it right off. Okay, now here's the last side. Like I said, if you make a sewing yeah, sewing machine organizer, yours is definitely not going to take as long as this one. I made, I'll show you when I get done, a cover for my sewing machine out of the same fabric that I made my organizer out of, because I had leftover. And I'm going to show how to make it too later, but I'm not going to show you how to quilt when I do that one, because quilting takes too long. Okay. I'm kind of looking at my other side to make sure everything... I think everything's looking okay. I'm going to double check it. I probably should double check it while I'm sewing, but... just trying to hurry up. Almost to the end here. And oh yeah, I'm also planning on doing some curtains too. You inspired me, Paula, when I did the curtains for you. I want some new ones for my craft room, and so I'm going to. That little piece of thread is in the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them down and use them as like a pattern, like I did with the curtains that you gave me to use as a pattern for the ones that I did for you. And I thought that would be a fun thing to show. See, it seems like this is all I'm trying to move a little bit. I'll wait and take this off at the last minute because I don't want it to come undone. Okay. Get to the very end and then back up. There we go, and then sew off. There we go. Yay. Now, come on. Ooh, that didn't want to come loose. Oh, I see why. Because on top, my thread did something really weird. Oh, it got wrapped around on top of my sewing machine. Okay, you thread. I'm gonna fix you because you shouldn't be doing that. You get hung up on get my machine all hung up. Don't want that. Okay, I fixed that. Alright, so we've got that, and I'm gonna cut my extra thread off. I think I'm going to, alright, let me see how big see how I'm going to do my pocket. I'm thinking, what's a post-it? Oops. Typically, post-it notes are about that wide. So I'm thinking maybe somewhere in here. Let's see. So, to the edge there. So maybe about right there, because I want to make it big enough that other notepads besides Post-its, because all I plan on putting over here are pins. So let me mark that. I think right about there, because that gives a little wiggle room as far as pins, ink pens and so forth. Oh, come on, go through. Alright, so that's gonna be where I'm gonna sew my pocket. So we come back over here and make sure we got enough threads. That one's kind of short, it needs to be longer, so I don't want it to come out. And there we go. Alright, so I'm going to scoot this under there to where I put my needle. I probably should have just marked it with my blue marker. So let me find where I put it. I'm going to do that instead. Well, actually, it's right about there. So, get that out of the way. And put that there. Alright, so we're going to line it up right there, because you want to start right at the top of your pocket. So you're going to put your needle right there, and you're going to sew forward. I would sew forward all the way across the bias tape and then back up, because you want to have that nice and sturdy. And honestly, I probably should have marked my line all the way down, but I didn't. That's okay. It might be a little crooked. I probably should have drew it with a something straight. I did a pretty straight job. Okay. And I think I do not mind it being with black thread instead of purple thread. Because all these lines will be gone when I wash it. So the black thread goes with the black bias tape anyway. So there's my pockets. And oh, you love your curtains. I just now read your thing. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn this around real quick so you guys, there's my wonderful, I'm going to take this microphone off for a second so I can show. Move this out of the way. I have such a small craft room. So what I'm going to do is this is going to lay across here. Move some of my stuff out of the way, and I got a mouse pad here. And then it's going to hang off the side like so. See, and then I just had enough to just kind of hang over here. So I'm going to take my laptop and put it over the top. And so then I can use this area for my mouse, because it's fabric works just as well as this. So that'll be kind of cool to have Nightmare Before Christmas stuff over there instead of, you know, my other. So that'll be kind of nice. And I'll have a little pocket hanging off to the side where I can put different little things. Because I don't, as you can see, I don't have a whole lot of, I have TV trays off to the side for extra space. Alright, let me show you next week's project. That button tree over there is going to be next week's project. It's going to be painting the background with just regular acrylic paint, and then we use buttons for the leaves. And then if you want to, I did some 3D paint, which you can't necessarily tell. Let me bring it forward. I used a little bit of 3D paint on the bottom here, and it kind of shows up a little extra. It gives it more of a 3D effect, and then also I used some black 3D paint for inside the tree area. It's not real noticeable, so I'm thinking just the buttons is good enough, or that maybe you guys don't have to do the actual 3D paint to do the same thing for it to be cool. Because most of the stuff I've seen, they've just painted their background and then did the buttons, and that was the only 3D part of it. Mine's kind of large. It took a long time to do. So I'm going to recommend doing it on a smaller scale, which like not an 8x10, but a little bit bigger than an 8x10 board, because this one's quite large. But anyway, we're going to do that next week, and then the week after, I'll go back to sewing. Oh gosh, I forgot. I didn't have my mic on. That probably been sounding horrible. Put that back on. Okay. And then the week after that, turn this extra light off. There we go. And that way I can kind of show and it's out of the same fabric. There it is. And I did that today. And I put buttons on it and stuff, but you can't really see. And I ironed on a little sewing machine thing on there too that I bought. It all blends in together. So I probably should have put some solid fabric on that area to do, because I put little buttons that were different, neat little buttons on there. You can kind of see. Well, I guess you can see it closer up, but they don't show up as much. So I may take those back off and do something different. So that will be in 2 weeks. So that's everything. Okay. Whew, that took a while. Alright, well, I'm glad you joined me, Paula, and at least I had you at the end there. I didn't have very many people I had people popping in and out and stuff. Oh, goodness, Lucy. And she was making a noise there. My puppy dog. I'll be back next week, and we'll do the painting thing next time. And we'll see you then, and thanks for joining in with me and watching me, Paula, and everybody else that popped in at different times too. See you next week. Bye.